Okay, it's a gorgeous day. Shop Dog's inside though because he got tired. So this is not a Shop Dog approved video. And got a little bit more done in here today. So we've got the dash installed. We've got the 8-track installed and wired. Quite a bit going on under here yet, but it's almost complete. This is all for cruise control, and that will get tucked up nice. It's also the horn relay. We haven't decided how we're going to do the split between the two radios for the antenna yet. We may just go to a second antenna. Might be simpler. So that's the actual radio, and then these are the buttons for the displays for the Dakota. So that's mounted in a nice convenient location. I got all the Dakota ducting run again. A lot of wiring going on under here. And then this is the console light, and this is going to get changed over because he's got a couple of power points. In fact, you can see the wiring right there on the underside of the teeny tiny little glove box that you get with the Dakota. So we're going to rehook those up, only now they'll be on a nice fuse instead of directly off battery power. Let's see, what else have we got? We're still haven't figured out what I want to do about this knob, but I know I'm probably going to mount it in this location here. Obviously we've got that taken care of. We talked about that before. This is the sender for the GSS. That's one of the next things I need to do is pick the car back up, get onto the transmission, get all that linkage set up. I guess technically you could embed it in here, but it really goes on the transmission a lot easier. And then get that run, because like we talked about in the last video, the GSS, which is the parking indicator, or gear select indicator, is going to get a plate, and it's going to mount neatly in here, because during setup you do have to access this little button right here, same as the setup on the compass and air temperature setup. So having it where I can just pop a plate and get at it, that's kind of nice. I think I've come up with a solution for how we're going to mount his amplifiers. I'm going to take a steel plate and use a plasma cutter, cut it to fit across that void there, and we'll put some nice nutserts in there, from that kit. And he's got a couple of these amplifiers that will get hooked up, and then he'll be able to remove them without having to pull the interior out of the car, because he changes his mind once in a while about how he wants to do things. But I've actually started taking things off the pile and putting them back in the car. Oh yeah, here's those power points right there. You can see them. And it's one of the problems with these old cars is obviously none of that existed. So getting all that set up. But yeah, we've actually got the dash back in, and I'm very happy with how the wiring came out. We've got the signals to and from the cruise control module, the signals to all the senders that go to the Dakota digital dash. We've got the fuel pump information from the Fast all going through the harness. Obviously the vintage air is all tied into the harness except for the trigger wire. We haven't done that yet, and you'll see it over here. The Fast needs to know about it. Obviously the air compressor needs to know about it, but the most important part is this switch has to say, hey, we have a safe pressure, we can go ahead and turn the compressor on. So I've got the trigger wire from the vintage air, but that's it. But we do have the beautiful little harness that we made for the bypass that shuts water flow off to the heater core when air conditioning is on. I'm not super fine with how it was mounted, but it's not something we were asked to change. So Diesel was already happy with it and it worked, so we'll leave that alone. Starting to look at getting the cowl to actually work. It did not in the past. I have a feeling I'm going to be playing down there somewhere. Hopefully you can see there should be a little plunger that gets hit by the throttle linkage. So when you're at wide open throttle, it opens a little flap in the back of the cowl hood and makes you feel good. It doesn't do anything useful, but it makes people feel good. So that little hole there that you can see from inside the car, that will open when it's wide open, It was a pretty big marketing gimmick for GM back then. And then this screw isn't actually screwed in yet because something else goes through it, so it's just sitting there so I don't lose it. But yeah, it's starting to get there. And I do have the dimmer hooked up, you know, the new dimmer switch, but I'm not going to cut the hole yet. Let the carpet relax as long as possible because those holes are really difficult to get correctly located. So that's where we're at today. I'm hoping tomorrow that I can start attacking the engine bay. Believe it or not, the engine bay is the easiest part. You know, this will go a lot quicker than under dash did, and building that harness. And then maybe Monday, maybe the weekend following, I will attack building up the rear harness. It's not hard, it's just time consuming. Just gotta build it up, each socket, and get it all connected and get it loomed and make it safe. Plus we've got the fuel pump wiring set in there. And I did, even though we don't have a third brake light, since it was already bundled in, I did go ahead and bring that back as a spare wire and have it terminated under the dash in case I need it for something. So if you're already running it, it costs you nothing to run something that's already there. Might save you all kinds of hassle later. All the stereo stuff is routed very nicely up the other channel. I'm very happy with that. In fact, probably pretty soon I'll put the channel cover plates on. And yeah, that's where we're at. Fought like all kinds of getting that radio in with the Vintage Air. They don't like each other that much, all those tubes. But yeah, so unfortunately ShopDog went back inside, but he was out here earlier, and that's where we're at today.